Hey everyone, welcome back to the live stream, and we have an extremely special guest with us now, a bit of a blast from the past from the GameSpot AU universe, and that is none other than Mr. James Kozanecki. How are you, James?
I'm good, Randy. How you doing?
It's great to have you back, actually, having a chat to you.
It's only been a few months, but it feels very familiar.
Yeah. So, you know, you've actually jumped to the other side of the fence now, so you've gone into the actual sort of like game publishing world now, yeah?
So I work for a company called Mindscape, and we represent Tecmo Koei and Konami down under.
Yeah. So, of course, you represent Konami, so that means the game we're talking about today is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is, I gotta say, one of the best titles ever for a game.
It's a very cool word.
It's a very cool word, yeah. So, you know, I think the first thing you want to show us today is actually talk through the trailer a little bit. So, can we play the trailer? And this is essentially the English language version of what was released earlier.
So this trailer was released 2 weeks ago at TGS.
Yep.
It unveils a little bit about the plot, and it shows how Raiden lost his eye, and how he got the new armor, the new sword, and a little bit about that.
Okay, so that's Raiden there?
Yeah, that's
what you're saying?
Yeah, so that's Jack as he was a child.
Yeah.
People familiar with the Metal Gear franchise will know that Raiden was a child soldier in Africa, and then Big Boss rescues him.
He's growing up really quickly.
Yeah, all those hormones like the chickens at KFC. So that's one of the main antagonists of Metal Gear Rising. Very painful.
That's kind of graphic.
Yeah.
So it's a G title then, is that right?
Yeah, we're gonna be bundling with a whole bunch of like kids games.
Okay.
So yeah, one of the things is Raiden's.
I take back that G title thing. That's not G at all.
Not at all.
That was really violent.
He probably had it coming. So yeah, Raiden's working for a good PMC, and he's combating the bad guys who just killed his protectee.
Now the action in this is pretty over the top,
Yeah, the whole thing is very over the top, and you'll notice that a lot of the combat's reminiscent of how Raiden fought in Metal Gear Solid 4 as well. In that game, he used his feet a lot to hold the sword, and by pressing triangle, he actually does the heavy attack where he does a handstand kick and puts the sword in his toes.
And anything you can tell us about some of the other characters that we're seeing on here now?
Yeah, so in this trailer, you've seen a couple of the antagonists. In another trailer, there's actually he starts off as an antagonist, but then he becomes an ally of Raiden. It's essentially a cyborg cat that has a chainsaw for a tail. Okay. So it's extremely realistic.
I've got one of those.
It's going to be going up against Call of Duty in the realism level.
Yeah. And he's going to be on a Ferris wheel at some stage of the game,
Yeah, so the game allows you to use environmental destruction to your advantage. That Ferris wheel, for example, so like you're seeing here, you can drop the balcony on that guy. With the Ferris wheel, if you lure the guys over to the Ferris wheel, you drop the front two spokes off the Ferris wheel and it falls on them. So you don't always have to rely on direct combat to take out the enemy.
Now this section that we're seeing here is part of the playable demo, right?
Yeah, this section here is on the bridge. It's about
and this is what people have been playing at EBX, yeah?
Yeah, so it's actually been running the E3 code, which has been what they've been showing off for the last few months now at Gamescom. The TGS build was a little bit longer than the code we have here, but for the most part it's very similar.
So essentially what's playable here at EB Expo is a tutorial, essentially, right?
Yeah. So it starts off, we'll come to that trailer in a second. It starts off in a playground-like area where you get familiar with Blade Mode. The whole demo is really a proof of concept that Blade Mode works. So I'll show you on the controller actually if you want. So
we'll get to that. I think isn't there a sting here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He looks very serious, right? Yeah.
Cutting people up is serious business.
All right, so obviously, you know, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, it's, you know, it was originally Kojima Productions, but it's not anymore, right? It's Platinum. Can you tell us a little bit about the history? Like, what happened there with Kojima and Platinum? Yeah,
so what they did was Kojima Productions built the engine, they built Blade Mode as a mechanic, and then they kind of just, being stealth guys, they looked to other partners, and Platinum Games came along and had a go at it, and Platinum Games have since taken over the reins. Hideo Kojima is still the executive producer on Metal Gear Rising, so he's still intimately involved in the project and ultimately has to say in what's happening.
So what is that then? So did Kojima Productions sort of come up with the plot? What did they actually add to the game?
Well, they're overlooking it. So Platinum Games are the guys who do Bayonetta, they do Vanquish, Mad World. They're a really established studio as far as action titles go. I mean, you know how good Bayonetta is. And so they've got a really good reputation and a pedigree in that field. So they're looking after most of the gameplay design. Kojima Productions have input into the story, and then ultimately everything gets approved by Kojima Productions.
So does this actually fit into the Metal Gear Solid universe? Is that right, or is it a completely separate thing? How does it work?
Yeah, well, there's been a little bit of confusion because originally Metal Gear, it was called Metal Gear Solid Rising.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, it was going to be telling the story of what happened to Raiden between 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Since then, the timelines have kind of changed.
Yeah.
It's not technically official canon, but it still has a lot of the characters from it. You see a lot of the units, like the Gecko mech walkers, feature very heavily in it.
So what's the actual story then? Like, tell us a little bit about it. You said that, it kind of follows Jack's storyline, right? And finds out where he comes from, yeah?
Yeah, so the game starts off with you all protecting a Prime Minister. And I think the Prime Minister is anti-PMC. And that guy who we saw slit the throat, he takes the Prime Minister hostage and kills him. Yeah. So Raiden loses his VIP. Yeah. And he also cuts out Raiden's eye. So Raiden gets hired by a good PMC company, and he's out to avenge him, essentially.
Yeah. All PMCs, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we had a question from, like our live audience earlier in the week, asking about, Revengeance and saying, like, it obviously feels very different to your, normal Metal Gear Solid game, which is all about stealth, right? But this is all pure action, yeah? Like, should people just forget about, the Metal Gear Solid series and stealth, and just focus on this as being an action title?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think that the most important thing for people to keep in mind with this is to keep an open mind. Yeah. Gamers aren't necessarily known as being very open-minded, but this is, although it's not a traditional Metal Gear game, it's a whole lot of fun. It's extremely fast-paced. Yeah. It's very over the top. Yeah. A lot of the time there's like an electric guitar solo going up in the background. It's classic Platinum games. You know what to expect from those guys with their over-the-top action. Yeah. The ending of the demo that we're running at the show ends with you jumping up a hail of missiles from a helicopter, and then you just chop it in half. So
that's very Metal Gear Solid, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still got the Metal Gear humor. There's guys in cardboard boxes that you'd expect to see from a Metal Gear game. Yeah.
And obviously, it does feel sort of very different. And as you said, it's a lot more over the top. Will we see any stealth elements at all in this game?
Well, really, what they've talked about so far has been Blade Mode. I think Blade Mode is one of those concepts that, when I describe it to you, it sounds a little bit funny, but when I put it in your hand and let you play with it, I mean, you played with it, it feels really natural and it flows really well. But so the demo they've been showing off up until now has always been just about the combat. What was the question again, sorry?
Also, like, is there any stealth?
Oh, yeah. So in the TGS trailer, there was actually a stealth element of where Raiden was jumping up in the air and cutting down security cameras. Yeah. And he also hacked into the little three-legged robots and was using one of those to infiltrate a base. But to be honest with you, like, that's all we really know at this stage.
Okay. So in your personal opinion, what sort of, like, because it isn't a traditional Metal Gear Solid game, like, in your opinion, what sort of game is it most like, or like what sort of genre is it most like, do you think?
The way I like to describe Metal Gear Rising is it's Bayonetta meets Skate.
Bayonetta meets what?
Skate. Yeah. I know it's a really weird analogy, but
okay, yeah. We'll move on to this because this is about the controls, right? Yeah.
So I've got a PlayStation controller here, so we're talking about that. Yeah. So in Skate, they have the flick it system. Yeah. I noticed a lot of people this weekend have been playing it like a first-person shooter. Yeah. So they've been going like that, but the way Blade Mode actually works is you just flick it in the direction that you want to do it. And
so that's the sword.
Yeah. So it's really easy to do. All you got to do is like that. And then that's how Blade Mode works. So it feels really natural.
So obviously we've seen in the gameplay there, like, you can actually slow down time. Is that right? Can you tell us a bit more about that mechanic?
Yeah. So if you cut to the screen now, that blue bar on the screen is the Blade Mode meter. Yep. So he has two batteries on top of that. Yep. And the way you build up Blade Mode is by using square and triangle to do wide and heavy attacks. Yeah.
Okay, and then you basically just, like, you can sort of change the arc of it, so you can slice creatively, right?
You flick the right analog stick up, you find the direction that you want, and then you release it.
Okay.
Yeah. It is one of those things that you have to build up, because Blade Mode is incredibly powered, and it's meant to make you feel quite powered, and if you have that all the time, then you take it for granted.
Yeah. And in terms of, I guess, the sort of like, are there any sort of like RPG-like elements to this? Like, can you level up Raiden? Does he have abilities or skills that you can sort of focus on? Or
yeah, look, at this stage, we're really not talking about any of those sort of features. You played Bayonetta, you played Vanquish, you know what those guys like to do.
And they do have like like RPG-like elements, right?
Well, as far as that's concerned with Metal Gear Rising, we're not really talking about that at this stage.
Okay, and obviously, like, I got to ask you this question because violence is a thing in our society, especially in Australia with R18. The whole creative slicing thing, they're all robots though, right?
Yeah, they're all cyborgs. And, the whole issue of it getting rated in Australia is something that we are quite aware of. But we're confident that it will come out here, and it is kind of, when it does get released, it will be unedited in Australia. So we don't have to worry about getting a censored version or anything like that.
And the things that Raiden is grabbing from his enemies, what are those that he's crushing? The battery packs?
Yeah, so they're called nano repair units. So the blue bar that I was talking about is the nanometer. So you can build up blade mode either by using regular attacks or picking up nano repair units.
Yeah. So I might just throw to the studio audience if there's any questions at all about Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Yeah.
Any questions? And I just want to remind you guys that we do have Turtle Beach headsets to give away to the best question for each session. So come on up and ask the question. You have one here?
Yep.
Given that in the free blade mode where you use that flicker system,
Can you speak up a bit?
Sorry, I can't hear.
in the free blade mode where you've got that flick system, can you also use the face buttons to just like use vertical attack, horizontal attack, so forth?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Jess, can you help us out?
In the free blade mode, where you've got the flick system, can you also use the square, the triangle button to actually do your horizontal and vertical attacks?
So, by using the square and triangle attacks, you just don't control the angle. So you still have the same ability to be able to decapitate a guy or chop through a wall. Or a pillar.
So what is the real need to use the flick system if the square and triangle are easier?
Okay, so when you're not in blade mode, they're less powered. So when you're in blade mode, that's when you'll be decapitating guys. That's the only time that you can chop off an arm or a leg is in blade mode. Regular square and triangle attacks just wound them like any other attack would.
But do square and triangle work in blade mode?
In blade mode, yes, they do.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, are there any other questions from the audience? Anyone else? I think we have another person here.
I can't hear them.
Hi, how are you? Can you just explain a bit more about the Revengeance part of the title and what that implies or means or where it comes from?
I think it's just a cool thing, right? It's just two words that we can put together.
Yeah.
Revengeance.
I mean, as I said, so the plot of the game is that Raiden is a bodyguard and his protectee gets taken out. So he's not only out to avenge, but he's also out to get revenge. So that's kind of where the word comes from.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Vengeance.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have any questions at all from any from the live crowd? We do have one from a live stream. So Jaeger Zero wants to know: is the game will it support Move or Connect at all?
Yeah, I mean, when it was originally announced, I did talk about a little bit of Kinect support, and that's a question we have been getting a lot. Since they've re-announced it with Platinum Games taking the reins, they actually haven't talked about it at all, so it's not a question I could really answer, unfortunately. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
And I think this is going to be our last question because we're running out of time. Will Grey Fox make an appearance? I know it's probably an odd one to sort of answer right now.
Look, they have talked a little bit about post-launch DLC, and a lot of rumors are floating around that there could be a possible Grey Fox expansion pack to tell the story of Shadow Moses, but again, it's a sort of thing. Kojima Productions like to keep all their cards very close to the chest, so we really don't know at this stage.
Okay, well, thank you very much, James. Great to talk to you again.
Nice, good to see you.
One last question.
Yep.
When is the game out on what platforms?
So it'll be out on it'll be out on the 21st of February on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.